I don't want to.
Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliates, subordinate ministries, and or nonprofits. No, he is. He's back with a vengeance. It's that guy. It's that guy, Steve Mickey Mac McAllister. Writer living live. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Matt. Yes,
crowd noise.
Boy, that was a big crowd. Yeah, the big peanut gallery out there. Hello out there, TV Land. Well, no, it's X Media Group or X Media
Land.
Media Land.
Sounds like TV.
Facebook, Twitter, all those wonderful. Yeah, YouTube. All those social media platforms.
If Salma Hayek said YouTube, she would say YouTube.
Salma.
YouTube.
Thank you very much. For those of you have been praying and have, believe me, I felt the prayers. I went through so much in the last 36 hours. The weekend was okay. It started getting better throughout the weekend. But after last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I felt like two Mack trucks hit me. And it was because when I fell, this last fall, I didn't have to worry about hurting anything, but it sure felt like I've been mowed down.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like struck down, but not destroyed.
Yes, I wasn't destroyed. My spirits were dampened. I can't lie. My spirits were dampened for a bit. I was feeling overwhelmed, but because of people's prayers and people giving the positive comments that they did, we were talking about being positive earlier this morning on the morning drive, and that's what really helped me throughout the day is all these comments coming in from my friends in Michigan. I know who really, they were all my friends, but a few of them really lifted my spirits, and I appreciate you guys for doing that. And
it's always good to have a prayer support group, a fan club, or whatever you can get these days.
And you know what? Fan club, to me, I enjoy maybe having a fan club, but, I just more appreciate prayer warriors.
That's right. The consistent prayer. My grandmother did that for all of us when she was living. It was a real reflection on her and our family. It makes a difference.
And, well, my guest today is none other than Johnny Rooster.
Johnny Rooster.
And you've got to catch his show. It's on Friday mornings at 9 o'clock.
That's right.
With Pastor Matt. And I'm telling you what, if you want to have your spirits lifted, you've got to watch the show because you never know what he's going to have.
Well, that's true. Thank you for having me today. The point of the Morning Mouth on Fridays with Johnny Rooster is to build people up, encourage them, and give them something they don't normally hear.
Like newsworthy, whatever.
There's a lot of things that are kind of depressing, down negativity.
What happened to the news reports? When I was a kid, I remember listening to Film at 11, but I remember hearing some good news or some bad news, but then there was a lot of good news, and then they used to have an anchor who used to do commentary.
Yes.
He was a Christian, and he brought the Bible up on the news broadcast during his commentary. So you might have started out with bad news, but then you ended up with good news. And so...
I believe no matter what their worldview, they try to push an agenda now. And it looks like they're trying to accomplish certain things politically where they shouldn't have that role. They should just have the role of presenting what's going on.
Right. Well, with the news now compared to back then, it was network. There wasn't really any cable. There wasn't any of the, CNN. There was nothing like that. But now there's so much competition, but there's also so much fake news and so much negativity. There's rarely any good news on a news report anymore. I mean,
I think this world needs a lot of real news, not fake, and that means not just about events, but about our lives, about what matters to us and how can we improve. If we are here just being the same, can you imagine never improving? What's the point?
Yep, and that's why I bring up Fruits of the Spirit, because I do want to start a series eventually. I thought I was going to start it today, but I do want to kind of introduce it to, Galatians. I think it's Galatians 5. And I think it's 20 Oh,
It's in the later part of the chapter,
Yeah.
but they do list the fruit of the Spirit.
and the love, joy, peace,
Patience.
gentleness,
Kindness,
faithfulness,
goodness.
and those are all positive things. But if you, and that's what we need today is we need to remember the fruits of the Spirit. Just like in October, we're going to be talking about spiritual warfare and putting on the armor of God. And there's a lot of spiritual warfare going on right now.
You know, that same chapter in Galatians talks about the acts of the sinful nature are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, discord, anger, fits of rage, jealousy, drunkenness, orgies. All of these horrible events in our lives because we're self-inflicting.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to medicate the problems when we don't have love,
Right.
joy, peace. We don't have the fruit of the Spirit. We have our own. Our own is horrible results.
Right. Because when we rely on our own self, just like Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, we need to trust in the Lord with all our hearts, not just part of it, not just maybe half or 3/4, but all of our hearts. We need to trust him because you know what? He's the only one that we know that we can trust, because humans will let you down
Absolutely.
all the time.
But see, we don't have to be disappointed by that because faith and hope does not disappoint us.
Right.
So if we have hope in Jesus Christ, we don't have to be disappointed by the people that let us down.
Mm-hmm.
But we can feel it. Well, I mean, in my flesh, I feel the disappointment, anxiety, and anger from people letting me down because they didn't meet what I expected of them.
Right.
It's my expectations.
Just like the mask mandates. I don't want to get started.
But yeah, there's people that have let other people dictate what they do. They feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
The other people are trying to do the right thing, and others are forcing that on others.
And health-wise, from what I'm understanding, it's not a good idea. And in fact, I will tell you, for me personally, the mask has gotten my voice to the point where it's raspy a lot of times. And my sister's like, "Do you got a cold or something, or your voice hoarse?" I said, "No." And I just felt like my voice changing ever since the longer you wear the mask, the huskier my voice got.
Yeah.
And all this, that's why it sounds like it does now,
Yeah.
is because, and I'm breathing all that carbon monoxide back in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why does my voice sound so bad? And then I never thought about it. And when I've had the mask off for quite a while, it goes back to a normal type voice.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying, you've got health issues.
Right. And I
You're
think that's part
compromising some of that.
of it. Mm-hmm.
Exacerbated. That's a big word for it. It's making it worse.
Yeah.
So what's supposed to protect you is hurting you.
Right. And that's what the whole mask mandate thing has been about is, and it's causing rashes on people, around the mouth areas. And thank goodness I don't have that, but I understand you got to follow the rules and regulations, but some of it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't say all of it, but some of it's ridiculous.
So you're talking about different things today. You talked about the fruit of the Spirit.
Right.
If our response to something we don't agree with, let's say the mask mandate is an example.
Right.
Let's say we don't agree with it, because we don't. We think people should have the choice.
Right.
We don't say don't wear a mask. We're just saying don't make everyone be required to wear a mask, if that's what you're saying.
Right. Right.
So what if we had love, joy, peace, patience? That's going to take away from some of the anxiety we feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
Or anything.
Right.
Let's say we don't agree, but we're still at peace because we're patient, kind. That's hard to imagine, but it's worth it because the Bible says there's no law against being loving and kind and patient. All
Right.
the fruit of the Spirit, there's no law. Against such things, there is no law. You're never going to break the law by being loving, kind, patient, good, gentle, self-controlled.
Mm-hmm. And self-control is another big one. Self-control can get you into trouble, or self-control can, self-control. If you don't have self-control,
Lack self-control will get you in trouble.
will get you in trouble. And you know what? We're humans. We have this flesh, and that's what I tried to say earlier this morning. Is that we have, and when I said human body, we have this flesh in us,
Mm-hmm.
and Satan's just waiting for us to mess up, and
Yeah.
he sits there and laughs and says, "Yeah, Yeah, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. But we have the strength through Jesus Christ to say, you know what? No, devil, not today.
Not today. Like Buzz
Not
Lightyear. Not today.
Not today, Satan. Of course, there's a lot of those T-shirts that have that on there now.
Not today. Yeah.
So I just think that we can have a lot of fun as Christians, and we need to think on those things, the love, the joy, the peace, and the love. I did a thing back when I was a children's minister back it's been at least 11, 12 years. I did a kids version of the fruits of the Spirit, and I was Chef Tells the Truth.
Tells the truth.
I was Chef Tells the Truth, and I mixed up a salad of fruits of the Spirit.
Oh,
I had the apple of my eye. No, the
cool.
apple was love.
Okay.
And the Paris
Yeah.
is a. So that's what I did. And
That's cool.
kids, I did that because of course, I got it out of a book. I'm not going to say where, how. Anyway, I got it out of a teaching manual, and the kids just loved it. And I was able to express the fruits of the Spirit with different fruits, the banana,
Exactly.
orange, apple, and they got it. They really did.
See, those kind of points aren't made with just talking. You need
Right.
visual aid. You need something to show, because if we don't show the fruit, that's really good, because if we don't show that visually in our lives, we don't show love, joy, just like you showed an apple, you showed fruit, they got it. But if we don't show our fruit, they won't get it. If we don't taste like anything, like if an apple tastes the same as an orange and tastes the same as a banana, or if they had no flavor,
Right.
our life has to have flavor. And
Yeah.
that's why love, like an apple, has flavor, and it's good for you.
Right. And so if we don't share that fruit of the Spirit to others who may have gone through some situations, and we just need to be, because we may be the only book they ever read, and if we don't necessarily, our fruits will show more than our talk. And if they see us acting one way, they're going to say, I want what that person has.
Yeah. We got to make it attractive. It's got to be something that appeals to
nice
them.
and smooth and shiny like an apple.
I guess we could say it appeals to them. Appealing.
Oh man,
You gotta jump
it
right
is
in
Monday,
here.
isn't it?
Got to jump right
Well,
in here.
I do want to eventually. I do want to get into your ministry, because you have several things in your bag of tricks.
Yeah.
So the first time, I think I interviewed you in my first or second episode
Okay.
of that. I think that's what I did, because when I first met you, you was on another show talking about your crosses.
Yes.
And those Cross of Courage. Tell us about
Yes.
that.
Okay. Well, Crosslight Courage is on Facebook. If you go there, there's 3 words, and we combine them into one. Crosslight Courage. The idea behind that is simply to allow people to share the light of the cross from their own yard in their own neighborhood. So what I was going to get with that is they are 14-inch by 10-inch solar lighted yard crosses. They light up at night with solar batteries. There's a solar panel on the top, and they're made of acrylic, so they're good in all weather. So what's interesting is you put that in your yard. There's a planting stake, and you put it in the yard, and when your neighbor sees it, there's questions, or there's just affirmation that, hey, there's somebody there that believes in the light of the cross. We also have those available with not just white crosses, but American flag design crosses.
For veterans, or it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a veteran.
But for people that like to show their support of patriotism as
Right.
well. But we believe in God, and we believe in our nation under God. And I believe we're not going to have to say a lot. If we have a lighted cross in our yard, it's more than just
It's a testimony.
conversation. It's all the time. It's every day of the year. Imagine these crosses lighting up yards around neighborhoods, growing across the nation. We wanted to put in 1 million crosses nationwide in 7 years. And that's Crosslight Courage. That's the vision. They're $40. You pay shipping if you're outside the Springfield, Missouri area, but they are very interesting comments on your faith or on the light that you want to share, regardless of how you brand yourself
Right.
as a human being.
Because people might want to stop if you're out in the yard. It's at nighttime, so they're gonna.
In the daytime, you're going to see it as well, but at night, it's really visible.
So I'm sure. Have you had anybody stop by and?
There have been so many different types of responses with that. They've all been positive. I thought when I put these crosses out for people, let them put a cross in their yard, I thought somebody somewhere would say, "What are you trying to do?
Hello, Sana.
What are you trying to do? Push religion on the public?" Nobody. No, they don't get that impression. The public receives that message clearly. They say, "I want one." Why do they say that? I didn't say anything. See, this is the beauty of it.
You know why? It's because of what's probably going on with what today.
You don't have to talk about the cross. It's already there. It's already got a message.
Right.
See, folks, the cross already has a message. We don't need to make it up. We don't need to make it like somebody said, "Oh, I don't know if I can share Jesus that way." You don't have to. It's already doing it.
Right.
You don't have to.
You're sharing the message of the cross just by having it there, and you're letting your light shine, or letting the light shine up from the cross.
And again, that's a solar battery-powered cross.
Welcome,
it's
Troy.
A couple batteries, and it lights up every night. So, thanks for helping me get the word out about the Cross Light Courage message, which is just share the light. If you guys are interested in sharing light, get one. Order one. Cross Light Courage is a Facebook page.
I know I told you that I was going to get one a long time ago, but I do want to get one.
And I think that if there's more people on the street than one, it starts with one, wherever you live, and then the next one, and the neighbor across the way wants one.
Next thing you know, you're lighting the road.
People want it. They see that and they're like, I like that, because it speaks for itself.
You're actually lighting the way and lighting the path in a positive way, and then people see that cross, whether it's red, white, and blue, showing your patriotism, or showing that you're showing the light of God through the white cross.
Yes. You see, I think more than ever that people are divided, and they need a place to land. They need a place to unify. Let's say I believe in the light of the cross. So would thousands of others. And let's say they're a different political view, but they still believe in the light of the cross. Or they still believe in the positive energy that comes from America when we found ourselves under God and we're not acting on our own. I think that those crosses bring people together. They push us away from the pain of being separated. How many Christians feel isolated? And how many of us feel like we don't have a message? Well, you got one now. Just put it up in your yard. It's all year long, every day.
And that's where the fruits of the Spirit come in too, because when you're showing the light of the cross, you're also showing love, joy, peace, and kindness and faithfulness and self-control. See, I always tell people the hardest fruit that I have a problem with is self-control.
Okay.
Well, I did because I'm dealing with this physical thing called CMT. The self-control, the meekness and the faithfulness. Not the faithfulness, but I think it's more or less the self-control. I get mad. And I can't help it. And people, that's an automatic response. You get mad
you've got
because
a physical challenge. It's not comfortable. It's painful.
And then when you trip and fall, you feel like, well, you clumsy idiot.
You're mad at yourself.
Yeah, you feel like, well, you shouldn't have done that, or why did you do it? It's not you. It's the way that your body intends.
So you're frustrated with your situation, and your body's not responding the way you think it should.
So that's where I think if I'm going to have a problem with any fruit and get prayer for, would be the self-control.
I think everybody watching would be able to identify that they've got trouble with something. They need help in an area of self-control or of love, joy, or peace. Those are big.
You need, and of course, then I started having a peace about it because Rachel, she's there always to help me out, and that's where the love is too. It's the love and the joy that she brings to help me get through my self-control problem.
So I think that's the other fruit of the Spirit. Complements you with when you practice love, joy, peace, patience, you're going to have more self-control. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and the patience is what I've got to have more of. And then Rachel, she has to have patience because it is frustrating for her to see me go through this. And she just needs all kinds of help, prayer for her as well. It's not just prayer for me, but prayer for her.
If you haven't checked it out, go to Galatians chapter 5 in the Bible, and you'll read that chapter, and it'll talk about what we're talking about here.
Right, exactly.
Because I think like the cross in the yard, I think the Bible is also going to speak for itself. You don't have to come up with a big background on it.
Right, exactly.
It tells the story.
Right.
So,
So-
go to Galatians 5.
Yep, exactly. There was another. We'll get to your book here in a minute.
All right.
But, was there another? I thought there was some. Oh, well, of course, you've got your radio show now,
Yeah, the Morning Mouth,
the Morning Mouth,
Johnny
and then you've
Rooster
got
here.
your Light of the Cross, or your
Cross
got your
Light Courage.
right? Crosslight Courage. Besides you now being an author, was there anything else? I can't
I
think of
think
anything.
that would be the best way to describe me now is that I want to promote the words that I write, and I want a visual message with a cross.
Right.
That's the two
And-
things that I want people to know about.
And yeah, because now that you're an author, and we need to talk about that, because I haven't read any part of it. I just knew from the Facebook. I'm like, he wrote a book.
yeah. See, it's something else. It's a novel. If you want to get into it now, I can.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's fine. And it kind of remind me of a gentleman who was on a network that used to have a show that he was an author, and he followed a police detective around, and we can't say the name of the.
Well, it's interesting that you would bring that up because I am reminding myself of me, and this book is about someone who has the occupation that I had. This book is called The Accusation. It's also something that was based in 1989. In 1988, I became a newspaper reporter.
So
And so the character in the book is a news reporter, a newspaper journalist.
okay, so you're not just a book author; you're a newspaper reporter.
So that's where my background is. I have a degree in journalism, so that's where I pursued that interest. And 1988, I received a degree in journalism from Evangel College here in Springfield. Now it's Evangel University. They've upped it up,
Well, of course.
But so because of that, I had an interest in writing for the news or reporting the news. And back in the 80s, if you guys remember, that's before the internet. So people were really watching network television, or they were listening to the radio, or they were watching things like this on the radio. They're listening to things like this on the
Right.
radio. So it's before podcast, before the internet, before
Right.
all of that became a thing. So if they're reading it in the paper, that was a big deal.
Right.
A hands-on physical newspaper actually brought information into people's homes that they
Exactly.
couldn't find on Google or anywhere else. There's no Amazon, there's no YouTube, there's no Google. Think about that world. We are so used to this new world, we forget you and I had much of our lives without any of that.
Yeah, and the paper print was real popular, whether it was a magazine, whether it was a
Yes.
newspaper, and of course the old remember
Huge
the Sunday
following.
remember the Sunday paper. It
With
was like thick.
the comics in there, the funnies,
Yeah.
the ads, advertising, huge in the print.
And that was really big. back
Everybody
in
was
the,
looking forward to that Sunday paper to really find out everything. Sports, news, you
Weather.
got it. It's
Well,
all there.
yep.
And we don't watch it on TV because we have it in the newspaper. There's older guys, in particular, they'd kick off their shoes at night, prop them up, put on the slippers, put the pipe in. That's the stereotype. Sit back with the beer and read the paper cover to cover every night.
And my dad, he would actually do the crosswords.
Yeah.
But that was not in the Sun. They did have crosswords, I think, in the Sunday paper, but he would get the daily paper. And there's what we had a smaller paper that was just a town paper
Yes,
type.
and that's exactly where the book is. The book that I wrote is called
it?
The Accusation. It's about an accusation, but it's actually about a 1989 newspaper journalist who works for a small town weekly, not a daily, a weekly newspaper. Do you remember those?
Yes, I
These
do.
little towns, they still have some of those.
Yeah, they have those new. There's still newspaper boxes out
There's
there, folks.
still newspapers being printed. The newspaper in my town is Ozark. Has gone from an office to individuals working from home and gathering the news from home. They no longer have an office. That's how small the business has become.
Really?
Yes. There's
Wow.
no more budget for newspapers. There's no more new life in newspapers. They realize it's going different directions. So what they're doing is plugging in online. You know, if you're a newspaper now, you have to tap your news into an online source. Your newspaper becomes thepaper.com.
It's like a digital.
There's no way you're going to survive on just the paper. But back in the book, in the 1989 book that I wrote, it's called The Accusation. It's about a newspaper reporter in 1989 whose job is to report the news of a small town called Sawmill Springs, Missouri. Sawmill Springs is down in Piney County, and it's just north of the Arkansas border. You know right where it is.
Yes, I do.
It's right by Blackberry Creek.
Yes.
So all of these names that I'm putting in are in the book, and it sounds plausible. It sounds like a real place. It's like, where is Blackberry Creek? Where is Sawmill Springs? Where's Piney County? It's just north of the Arkansas border.
Right.
So that's why I like it, because we live in an area that's just north of the Arkansas border. There's a place called Taney County.
Right.
And it's got Branson. Well, we don't have Branson in the book. We have Johns River. That's the name of the town. And it's a touristy town. It's a place where people visit, just like Branson.
Okay, very
so
good.
if people like Branson, or they remember Branson and they visited
Back in the 50s.
they'll want to remember that. I don't know where this is popping, but I think it's the outside
Is it
sources.
There was some popping, Matt. Is that us?
No, you're good.
We got rats in the building.
Still popping?
No, it's good.
Sorry.
So
Getting ready for the next show.
19
all right. I wasn't sure, so I thought I better stop. and
back
find
in the 80s, that's when this book is written, or about the people that would
So,
read the paper back in
It's
these little
just now
towns.
getting published, so you
This is
haven't
a
been writing it.
No, this is a fiction story. It's not a real story, but it's
Right.
based on something that I did, which was a news reporter. He was also the central character. Jason is also on the weekends. He's got another job. He's a youth pastor at Harmony Community Church. Harmony is the oldest church in Sawmill Springs, Missouri. It is the historic church that burned back in the old days and now is reconstructed from stones from Brother McAfee's farm. You know Brother McAfee's been around since the days of Methuselah. That's the setting for the story.
I'm picturing
fidgeting with the squeaking hearing aid.
1860s TV series, you know. And,
So this is back in 1989. The book is called The Accusation. It's based on a character, Jason, who's 30 years old. He's a youth pastor at Harmony Community Church. He's a newspaper reporter at Sawmill Springs Sentinel during the week, and he gets accused of an ugly crime. And while he's trying to prove his innocence, guess what? A hideous, horrible, disturbing incident takes place that makes him look even more guilty.
oh man.
So now he's got to prove, not only does he have to prove his innocence, he has to really live a lie or risk his family and his freedom if he tells the truth. That's the accusation.
Wow.
It's a total dilemma for this young news reporter / journalist. He cannot be in his own headlines. He doesn't want to be part of the news. He is the news now. He knows something about an accident or an incident nobody knows. He knows it. He doesn't have the nerve to report it because he could go away. He could be put in prison. It's serious.
Wow.
So that's why you need to read The Accusation. It's not a Christian book, but it's a book about Christians.
Yeah, it's not a Christian book, but
It's a book about, and there's always a redeeming theme in books.
But that's okay, because there's a lot of books out there that are family friendly. They don't always have to say Jesus in them. They don't always have to be Christian. But if there's no harsh words or there's no harsh things going on, there's a lot of movies out there that they sprinkle the Christianity in them. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily Christian movies.
Yeah.
But they talk about Christians, or they're clean enough to where they could be Christian.
I want people to know that this book is marketed for people that are readers of thrillers, John Grisham style novels, people that like to read a moving, fast-paced novel that has suspense.
Right.
So that's the audience. The other people are ones that live in southwest Missouri. They would love it because of the location of this book. It's in fictitious Piney County, Missouri, just north of the Arkansas border on Blackberry Creek, in the town of Sawmill Springs, population 2,000 something. It's one of those small town stories, but it involves a big church up in Johns River, a tourist town with millions of visitors per year. And this big church is called Life Mountain Worship Center. It is the biggest, most flashy church in the area. And there's influence from the past about that big church and this little church. So there's a little battle going on politically, socially. You know, Christians.
Unfortunately, there's that
A lot
going
of that
on
stuff
right now
goes on
today.
now. So that's what it feels like. There's this rivalry or this jealousy or this thing that isn't quite right. And when Jason's world is interrupted by an accusation from a crime from years ago, it's like, what's going on? I'm trying to prove that this never happened, and an accident makes him look guiltier than ever. Now he's really going to, if they tell the truth, he's going to look so bad he may go to prison. So that's a real hard dilemma, and that's why I wanted people to know that it's not a Christian book, but it is about a Christian, and how does he respond?
Yeah, and unfortunately there's a lot of churches that have pastors that have been youth pastors that have rightly been accused of, unfortunately, some
Really serious
immoral things, and so and it's really hard to prove whether you're wrong or right, especially with what's going on right now.
That's right.
Because so when there's there's a rivalry or that type of thing between churches, whether it's a mega church versus a small church.
Yep.
Well, we've got this going on. Well, you know what? I look at it this way because I've been in a lot of small churches. There's a lot of small churches with a big message versus a mega church that it's a tickle your ear type of thing.
That's right.
And I've been to both, and I've felt both. And I would rather go to a small church of 50 people where everybody knows everybody and they love one another. But it's not always that way, but in a lot of churches, it is that way. But the smaller the town, the smaller the church, I think that's great. And then you go to a bigger church,
Yes.
and they don't know you. They don't want to get to know you.
Yeah, it's different.
Or you walk into some of these churches and they're like walking into a walk-in freezer.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate because then they lose that testimony of somebody. They end up getting bad mouthed because of how they treat. I've been to both.
Yes.
And so with that story, that's basically saying a big church versus a small church. And this reporter, he knows that if he reports it, the bigger church could get it to the point where he can go to jail. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. There's a serious accusation. Then there's an incident that takes place making him look even guiltier of the accusation that he's already
and the
trying to
bigger
prove.
church would probably go throw darts at that.
And the big church is the one that brought it up.
See,
And now he is under the gun with the big church to prove his innocence. That's the whole point. So that's why people are. If I could I read a section of a chapter?
I'd love for you
just to draw the readers in. This is called "The Accusation" by John Cockcroft. You can find it on Amazon, or you can go to me directly on.
I was just going to ask you where. I was going to ask you at the end. But
these books are available for $15.
Okay.
They're $12.99 plus shipping on Amazon, so it's about $18.
So
from the author, they're $15.
I'll have Matt put that on so we can
how to find me and how to find the book.
Right.
Here's a section of it. Mr. and Mrs. Winslow never had children. They never had pets. They spend their Saturday morning nurturing their lawn and sprucing up the place. They showcase the most immaculate lawn on the block. Their grass is the only grass on the block to have seen fertilizer and a sprinkler. Both. The shrubs and plants are sculpted to perfection. The brick walkway is meticulously maintained. 8 years ago, Kayla and I moved in next door and later shattered the peace by bringing home one baby girl, then another. As if that weren't enough, single mother Myra Anderson later moved in with her two bratty brats on the other side of the Winslows. For the past few years, children have violated the sanctity of the Winslows' precious real estate on either side. Rumor has it Mr. and Mrs. Winslow are saving up for a chain-link fence. Mr. Winslow placed a "Keep off the grass" sign on either side of the turf, facing each offending camp. Mrs. Winslow doubted if the little girls would read or heed. She was right, of course. A scream. Mrs. Winslow looks out her window with a weary sigh. The Marbler girls have vacated Myra's overgrown, toy-infested yard, defying the sanctity of the Winslow domain in their flight homeward. The girls burst inside their house, one wailing and the other tattletaling. "Mommy, Sarah's sister hit Lacey with a jump rope handle," Lynn bellows. An assortment of people files out of the bedroom to inspect the commotion. Lynn's tattletale dies midstream as her face belies the question, "Who are all these people in my house?" Lacey's wail is similarly overcome by curiosity. They both stare at our group, open-mouthed. "Why are you here, Rachel?" Lynn bursts, finding her tongue at first. "Are you babysitting us again?" "Why are you wearing Daddy's shirt?" Lacey queries, clutching the back of her head. "What happened?" Kayla is kneeling next to Lacey, gently prying little fingers loose from the back of the head. "Brooke hit me with a jump rope." The attention to the pain suddenly triggers a whiny voice again. "I don't see anything." "It hurts." "What happened?" The girls exchange glances. "Girls," Kayla says, embarrassed because of the audience behind her. "I didn't mean it," Lynn confesses. "Didn't mean what?" "Brooke said mean things about Daddy." I can hear Dana, the DFS worker from Family Services, scribbling something on a notepad. "What things, honey?" Lacey and Lynn look down. Dana leans in. I step back. "Stuff," Lacey mumbles. "What did you do?" Lynn is suddenly fixed on her shoes. "She threw a rock at Brooke's sister," Lacey announces. "Shh," Lynn hisses, ignoring her shoes now. "I hit her in the eye and she ran inside." "Oh, my word," Kayla says. "Is she all right?" Dana is furiously jotting notes. Kayla and I are stupidly staring at her as if she's going to haul us off to jail. Dana looks up. "Can you call your neighbor to see if her daughter's okay?" Kayla nods, glad to have something to do. "Can we play with Rachel?" Lacey begs. "We need to get going," Rachel's mother declares. "All I want is, I want you girls with me when I talk to Miss Anderson to find out what happened," Kayla continues, ushering our girls toward the bedroom phone. "If you don't mind, ma'am, just a few quick questions first." Dana from DFS is saying to Rachel's mother, "Step outside with me." I stare in disbelief as they walk outside. This is the first I've met Mrs. Osborne. Rachel and Kenna are two of the cutest girls in town. They adore me, and I adore them. Having my image tarnished before their mother leaves a sawdust taste in my mouth. I feel trapped. I revisit my mental image of Clancy's face, my boss from the newspaper, as he's hanging up the phone yesterday telling me about an unidentified woman who claims I violated her 10 years ago. I hear my protest telling him it's a cruel setup, that the sheriff knows this woman and wants to take the heat off himself for dealing drugs. Yet when Clancy presses me as to why I haven't told him about the allegation, and when I'd told the sheriff drug suspicion, I'd fallen silent. The silence hung so heavy. I knew Clancy doubted me. He told me I was off the drug story and I need to be careful. He had to settle matters with the sheriff personally from now on. I felt like a scolded child. The shadow of doubt had been cast. There was no way to clear my name. And now, this DFS person, prying into my personal life without facts, poisoning Rachel and her mom with her uncalled-for questions, the news would be all over the youth group at church. I strain to hear what DFS Dana is saying to them on the other side of the screen door. Their backs are to me, but it's impossible to hear. Someone approaches. I turn. "Sarah's going to the ER, Kayla says, her voice thin and her face pale. Her eye is pretty bad." And that is it. That is the end of a chapter in the accusation about Jason Marbler accused of a serious allegation against a young girl and having to defend himself in front of Family Services in one of those scenes.
Wow, folks, you heard it here first. Well,
that was a first reading, public reading on a broadcast of that book. So yes, it is. You did hear it here first.
Wow.
This book has just been released.
When was it released?
I self-published it, and the books showed up last week. I've got the first shipment of those, and then I'm going to do a reorder as soon as I can. The books are $15. I don't have money to order a lot of books, so I have to take it as I get orders.
So is there a PayPal or?
Yes, you can purchase those through me through PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. Personal check, cash, any method of payment would be fine. Any electronic method, any direct method. So
oh man,
there's nothing that you wouldn't be able to do. Whatever's convenient for you. Get this book and share it. It's not a Christian book. Warning: it's not an easy book. It's a hard topic book.
Right.
It's graphic, but it is about a Christian. How does he respond in these horrible situations?
Right. And I think if you're careful about that, people will understand when you say it's graphic or it's
Yes.
hard. It's not just like there was a movie about Jesus where it was rated R
Yes.
by Mel Gibson.
Extremely.
That was rated R, but it was because of the horrible things that happened with Jesus, and it was blood and that.
Yeah.
But it was extremely what would be a good word? It was
It's compelling. It's
it-
definitely getting the audience's attention on that event. Whereas most of it is like it's entertainment. Nope.
no.
It wasn't entertainment. It was compelling. You can't
And
stop.
it was
You're like,
based on it was on
Yeah.
a true story.
It makes you
and
realize the impact.
that's why people, when they left the theater, they were sobbing,
Mm-hmm.
but it was quiet. You could hear sniffles, but it was quiet. When those
Reverent.
credits started, they were reverent. They got up and left, and that's the first time I've ever been in a theater where you could hear a mouse scream.
Yeah, it's different when you have a message that strong. It's not. This book is not about just another novel, just another good read. It's about a message that if you're in a situation you can't get out of, where do you go? A lot of people in this world find themselves in a situation they can't get out of. If they tell the truth, they're going to feel like their world is caving in.
Just like Jesus, he was accused of things that
Everything. They
He was
started throwing
accused
it all at him.
Yep. And of course, we all know different. We know that he was accused of something that was, they were blaspheming him, and everything was blasphemous with the leaders. We all know that wasn't true. But anyway,
Well, I appreciate you letting me share a clip, an excerpt from the book "The Accusation" by John Cockcroft, available on Amazon or through the author.
I really, really appreciate that. See, folks, my show is not always going to be bright, but it's going to be brighter than most of the shows out there.
I do want to encourage people when they're reading something that's not as easy, that they find themselves in a situation they can't get through, and they think in their dark thoughts like this is hopeless. I want them to think that way and then start changing that to maybe it isn't hopeless. Maybe my life isn't so desperate. Maybe I need to come to the light.
Because you might look at somebody else's life, and this is where the jealousy comes in. It shouldn't, but you're jealous. Well, they've got this and they've got that, and I wish I had that. I wish. Be careful, because what they might have, God's given them maybe something that He's got you in a different spot for a reason. And if you're jealous of that other person, there's jealousy is not the good thing to have. And when you have a gift, a spiritual gift, your spiritual gift might be different than theirs. That doesn't mean yours is any less.
Yes.
It's what God's given you. That's why He's given you a spiritual gift and given that person another spiritual gift. And that's what God's given me.
And you can use that fruit of the Spirit in you as well as your gift. It's love, joy, peace, patience. Everybody, regardless of spiritual gift, can exercise the fruit of the Spirit.
Right. And my spiritual or my gift has been evangelism. And right now I feel like I'm evangelizing through this radio broadcast as well as Facebook, live. And
Yes.
and I really appreciate Jim and Pam Whining and Matt for allowing me to produce and be able to put this on the air.
My gift is encouragement, so I want to encourage you in that whatever your process is. If you feel self-doubt, I want to help you learn that that's not of God
Right.
when you're pursuing what you're talking about.
So, in your own words, I usually I'm going to start doing this, or I have started doing this, dropping, because my ministry is called Sporos, which is Greek for seeds.
Okay?
And I'm dropping seeds of love, but I'm also dropping seeds of encouragement. And that's what my evangelism is doing now. Is it's going into fields where there's workers are very few to find, and I want to be able to drop seeds and let God water it so that they can grow. And I want you to help me out today by giving out there, like giving your own, in your own words, a seed that people might go for the rest of the week.
Because
A
if
seed of the day or a seed of the week.
we don't know what is available until we talk about it or share it. It's
Right.
like when you share the gospel, you're sharing something that people may not understand. They might have heard the story, but they don't understand it from your perspective.
Right.
And your story matters. Your story, your light, your testimony matters because you are the only one that experienced it just that way.
And obviously you were here when I did my testimony.
Yes.
And I did that because God said, you know what, it's time that you shared your story. My friend Cindy Flowers, she's been an avid watcher, and she told me we've known each other for a very long time. And she said, it's time that you told people your story. I'm like,
Yes.
what? Really? Why?
Yeah.
People aren't going to relate to that. They're going to relate more than you think. There might be somebody out there that might hear your story and say, you know what, I was once like that. And I encouraged some people, and I guess it was a pretty big story.
The follow-up book to this, The Accusation, is part 1 in a series.
Okay.
So I'm going to be writing another one called The Pastor, and there's a story of child abuse in that story.
Ooh.
So it's a really hard topic, again, because Christians facing situations that are hopeless means we don't have hopelessness. We have a different response.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I had in my testimony. Is I had I didn't know it at the time, but there's hope.
Yes.
I didn't know. I thought I was hopeless.
So
I really did.
If you're open to reading a book about a desperate situation where somebody's accused and they can't get out of it without lying, or that's the way they feel, you're not alone. You can
Right.
read that book. If you want a book of hopelessness, then that's not this book. This book has something different to offer. It's not all despair. It's not all doom and gloom. It's just, it looks like it's the end, but then what? What happens?
Yeah, and that's the mystery.
There's something bigger out there than all of us.
Right. So, what is your seed for the week that you can give to my audience?
Okay, so you're talking about when you say seed for the week, that's something you're planting with the audience to help them grow. Mine is this: if you look at your life so much that it reflects God's glory, instead of looking at it through your own negativity. See, we have self-doubt. We have we doubt ourselves, and we're down on ourselves, and we're negative about ourselves. If your internal thinking is wrong, your seed today is turn that around to looking at yourself the way Jesus sees you. We talk about look at others the way Jesus sees them. Look at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on yourself. It's like getting the oxygen first when you're in the situation. You've got to help yourself to help others.
Right.
Be effective by helping yourself by seeing you as He sees you.
Right. Well, thank you very much. And that's the seed of the week. And folks, take that, and I just encourage you to get into your Bible and read it, because that's a good dose of strong medicine right there. So if you're feeling down and out, read your Bible. You should anyway. And pray and ask God to help you throughout the day. And I'm sure He'll give you the boost that you need. And let God water that seed that He just gave you, that John just gave you. And I'm sure that you'll grow in time and grow.
How does Jesus see me right now if you're in the midst of a crisis?
Right.
Does He see you as just broken and that's the end? Or does He see you as growing through something so that you can help others? Why would we grow? Why would we have a situation and not grow through it?
Right.
Don't let it cave us in.
Well, I'd like to have you stay tuned for a very impelling and very interesting show. And that would be Sacred Ways with Troy and Belinda Johansson. Hey, Troy, is Belinda with you today? Ta-da! Oh, I see air. I see air. No, anyway. No, you don't look like Belinda.
Coming up.
Anyway, coming up is Sacred Ways, and stay tuned for that. He's got a very interesting, every topic that I know of has been very interesting. And starting next week, I'm going to have the whole month of October with spiritual warfare. And Nemma Roden's going to be my guest, and we're going to talk about candy-coated occult.
If I could jump in and say on my show on Friday, it'll be Joe Dawes of the Breast Cancer Foundation of the Ozarks. We're going to support Breast Cancer Awareness Month coming up and talk about that wonderful nonprofit Breast Cancer Foundation of the Ozarks with Joe Dawes.
Okay, thank you. Joey Doss sounds familiar.
That's on Friday. He's a Channel 33 former news anchor.
That's what I thought. Yay, I knew it.
So he'll be here in the studio Friday at 9.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this beautiful day. Even though it was rainy this morning, it's still a beautiful day. I'm Steve. Mickey Mac McAllister.
And I am Johnny Rooster, your guest.
Yes, thank you, Johnny, for sticking around and being my guest today. And we'll see you next week. God bless and have a brighter day. Remember, He's large and in charge. Awesome. Take care.